Would I be wrong for financially cutting off my daughter after she told me not to expect her to take care of me in my old age? My 44 male, daughter 23 female, does not get along with my wife. We have been married for 2 years. My wife and I got together when she was at college. My ex-wife does not like her, and I have a feeling that is the biggest part of it. My daughter can't really seem to point out what she doesn't like. Just general, she's a stuck-up bee, or she always has an attitude. My daughter recently graduated, and we have been helping her pay bills here and there as she looked for a job in her field. We usually give her around $1,000 a month. Recently, she was at her house, and her and my wife got into an argument over my daughter leaving a mess in the kitchen. As I tried to defuse things, my daughter started screaming at me that I was a POS for siding with my wife, and that she was going to remember that when I'm older and eat her. This floored me. At this point, I just walked away. After giving it some thought, I realized I don't want my future to be in the hands of someone else, especially someone who intends to lord that over me. I would never place that expectation on her to care for me, but I do feel like since she made it clear that any support from her in my old age would come with strings, it makes more sense to invest that money so my later years will be paid for. Would it be wrong to redirect that $1,000 a month into my retirement versus helping my daughter? Context. My wife is 44. My daughter and her mom are a bit crass, and my wife is the opposite, so they just aren't comfortable. There isn't a particular issue. My daughter burps, farts, cusses, talks about her intimacy life, and my wife just kind of walks away at this point because it makes her uncomfortable, and my daughter knows that. My wife asks her to respect her home, which I don't find unreasonable, not to talk about her intimacy life, not to leave a mess, not to be rude, and not to cuss. I don't leave them to hash it out, but my daughter does have a key to our house, and I'm not there to monitor everything. This started because my daughter made herself food and left a mess in the kitchen. In the past, if I or my wife have said anything, she says stuff like, "God, let me eat," or "I was going to," so my wife left it. I wasn't aware at this point, to see if she would do it on her own. When she said she was leaving, my wife told her she needed to clean up, and my daughter said she was in a rush. My wife told her she should have done it before then, and asked if she just expected her to clean up after her. That's when I stepped in, and I understood what was going on. I told her what she needed to do.
Am I the asshole for telling my girlfriend that she'd make a terrible trad wife? I'm in a long-distance relationship. We have been together since high school and are very in love. It's hard, but worth it. She goes to a community college in our hometown, and I'm at Stanford. Ooh. Okay. He recently applied to college with me and got rejected. He has been off since she found out. We ended up getting into an argument. She told me she doesn't want to go back to college. I tried talking to her. I said school is what's best for her. She shouldn't let rejection hit so hard. She said I never wanted to go to Stanford anyway, which is a lie. I know how badly she wanted to get in. Insisted that she should drop out and come live with me instead. I said, "Oh, you want to get a job and live with me?" I told her she could go to community college around me. But she said the weirdest thing. She said, "I'm tired of college and I don't want a job." Honestly, same. I can cook and clean and look after you. I was honestly surprised. I said, like, what, a traditional housewife? That's really what you want? She said, yes, people have been doing it for hundreds of years. Why not? I said, I'm not interested in a relationship like that. She got frustrated with me. She said, of course, no one respects a housewife anymore, but they do a lot of work. A real man would appreciate that they have a woman at home cooking and cleaning for them. It's real work and it's hard work, but men like you have no appreciation for work women do. Pop off. I said, I have an appreciation for it, but it's not a relationship I want. I want a partner that's motivated in her career and to succeed just like I am. That is super fair. Added that I have a tiny apartment and it's not like she knows how to cook. It is work, I guess, but nothing compared to school/an actual job. She said I was implying a woman's value is determined on her ability to go to work or to school. She said I have no respect for women and was sexist. Just got fed up and annoyed and snapped at her. I said I wasn't being sexist. Imagine if I said I didn't want a job and was going to stay home while my girlfriend paid all the bills, worked, and went to school. Everyone would call me a deadbeat, lazy asshole. I also said she'd make a terrible traditional housewife. She doesn't want kids, and she doesn't know how to cook or clean. I know how to cook better than she does. What kind of trad wife is she going to make? I'm also 20 and not looking to have someone be reliant on me. That's actually very fair. I said it's important for her to get a job and to be financially secure for herself. I also said she was only saying this stuff because she got rejected from Stanford. Hello, it's Stanford. They reject everyone. She loves her career and can't seriously let a setback that small keep her from doing what she really wants to do. So many people get rejected from schools like that, and you can't just drop out. You got rejected, big deal, try again next year. After I said all of that, she was just silent. Didn't even say anything and just went to her room and locked herself in. So
today I effed up by repeatedly shooting my boss in the head. This happened a few days ago. We went paintballing.
I knew it. I'm like, please let's be like a BB gun or something.
Because I'm like, I don't condone murder.
With my... You just did like 30 seconds ago.
Yeah, I did.
Anyway, with my office colleagues at the end of our year celebration. In the game, I ran to the edge of the arena, hoping to flank the other team. 2 people on the other team had the same idea, and we found ourselves in a standoff behind some wooden cover. I shot the first person quickly, and they called their hit and went away. It was then between me and one other guy. I'm going to call him Dave. Instead of wearing a helmet, Dave wore only a mask, which left the rear and top side of his head uncovered. Unluckily for him, the top of his head was visible to me through a slit in the wooden cover. I considered for a moment what to do. Do I shoot him in the head and cause immense pain and agony? Or do I wait for a shot against a more protected part of his body? In the end, I thought I only needed to shoot him once for him to be gone and I'd be on my way. And by wearing a mask and not a helmet, he knew full well that it could happen. So I steadied my aim and I shot him through the gap of the wood, clean onto the top of his head. I heard a scream and say, "Ah, you bastard!" But he didn't call the hit. He didn't even move from his position, so I shouted, "Call your hits!" But he didn't respond. I'm sure he heard me because I saw his head turn slightly when I spoke, but he didn't call his hit. So I shot him again, and again, and again, in the exact same spot on the top of his head.
Do not move.
With each shot, he let out a... but he did not call his hits. It was kind of satisfying, actually, seeing the paintballs explode on the top of his head. So, at this point, his head was...
He's a murderer. Straight up, man. This is how it starts.
At this point, his head was red/yellow paintballing mess, but yet he still does not call his hit.
That has to be blood.
Yeah, he's like, my paintballs are only
You
yellow,
only have
but...
yellow, so where'd the red come from?
Weird.
But it's satisfying at the same
Yeah,
time.
He continues to like hit the
You
trigger.
don't need a paintball, sir.
But yet he still doesn't call his hit. Eventually a marshal comes nearby and I tell him that he didn't call his, but as you can see, he's covered in paint. The marshal tells me to shoot him again to see it for himself. So right through the slit in the wood, I shoot him in the exact same spot on the top of his head, and he doesn't call his hit, and the marshal pulls him out and escorts him away. I then see him after the game, crying his eyes out, holding a bag of frozen peas against his head, walking toward the car park. Turns out it was my line manager, my boss. I'm not sure whether to tell him it was me that shot him after the Christmas holidays. And then there's an edit and then an update.
You take that to your grave.
Yeah, you got it.
Don't tell them. Don't
You
tell
don't
them
really
that.
need to tell anybody that.
No one needs to know.
Just take your win and go.
Yeah. Plus, your manager's an idiot. You're not going to hit me in the
He
same
just
spot
stands
over.
there.
He just like, if I don't move, then I'm not hit. You're like, bro. He's like,
He just stands there.
I think after
The survival skills are literally
very
zero.
small.
Non-existent.
Right.
Edit number 1. Did not expect this to blow up. To those of you who are worried that I did serious damage to him, he's mostly fine, I think.
Mostly.
He's like, "Mm,
He had a sore head and was quite embarrassed from crying in front of his staff.
it's all you, man.
It was your basic rent-to-public paintball gun that did not possess any real dangerous power behind it, though getting shot in the exact same spot over and over again probably increased the pain quite a bit. Now, some have said that he will recognize my voice. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
I'm sure my voice from within a paintball helmet at a distance from behind some cover was heard, but probably not super recognizable given the circumstances. I don't think he got a really good look at me either, so I think I'm in the clear. To be sure, I just checked my calendar for the coming work week and can see my boss has scheduled a meeting for everyone that attended the paintball event.
Oh my god.
Depending on how that goes, I may post a further update in the future, and he did.
Oh,
Let's hear it.
And he called them and was like, I'm putting cases on
that's
all you.
embarrassing. That's embarrassing. You call a meeting
Yeah.
because you were dumb enough to stand in
We have
one
to
spot.
investigate. So like,
He's
"Hey,
opening
check
an
this out.
investigation."
Shoot the target. and then you shoot at the head.
Can you imagine? He'll be like,
Too much
everybody,
accuracy.
Way too much accuracy.
everybody put on your mask, and I'd like you to say, call out your head.
Yeah,
And I just
call
want
out
to
your
see,
head.
just want to see how that sounds from each of you guys. All right, number one, go.
So, update. Last week, I noticed my boss scheduled a meeting for everyone that went paintballing that day. Today was the meeting. I was anxious all day and barely got any work done. I kept reading comments back to myself about how he's going to recognize my voice or that he had a mental breakdown or some kind and that I irresponsibly failed to notice before shooting another 4 paintballs straight at his head. It didn't help that people in the office were talking about how our line manager cried at paintballing. All I added to the conversation were lines like, "Oh yeah, I saw that after the game. What happened?" And "Wow, that's crazy." It became clear that nobody really knew what happened. Most people thought he fell and banged his head really bad or something.
It looks that bad.
Yeah, everyone knew he cried.
Maddie was there. She's like, yeah, it was.
Everyone knew he cried, even people that didn't go to the paintballing, but nobody actually knew what happened. Only I knew he didn't hit his head. He just took the same shot over and over again in the exact same spot. He didn't call his hit and then cried afterwards. That's all that happened. Once we were sat and settled in the conference room, the boss made it clear that he didn't want anyone in the office discussing out-of-work activities during work hours.
You're such a dick for that.
Word must have gotten around that his crying was the topic of conversation. He said, "It's fine, nothing serious," and then said something that took every inch of my composure not to react. I don't know if I can quote him word for word, but he said something like this. "I raised my hand and I was running back to base, and that's when I slipped in the mud and hit my head against a barrel."
That's embarrassing, dude. When you know one of your coworkers did it and you come up with a lie, Okay, I get it. You're trying to save face with everybody else, but there's still that one person out there.
I know, but you're willing to take that because you don't know who did it. So you're like, you have to say something.
Yeah, no one fessed up too. It's like a game.
Yeah.
That is so embarrassing.
And he's looking at everyone in their eyes like, I slipped. And he's looking at them and like waiting for someone to be like,
Actually,
yeah.
This actually reminds me. Have you guys seen the SpongeBob movie?
Yeah.
Where he's trying to figure out who blew the bubble in the bar, and he said, "I'm a goofy goober." Yeah. Like,
Don't think we don't
they're
know how to
literally
weed them out.
So actually, you're pretty right there, Sam. So when he said those words, it felt like a Mexican standoff. He glanced around the room looking for a reaction, but I didn't give him one. Internally, though, I was like, what in the actual F are you about? I literally watched the paintballs one by one splat off the top of your head over and over again because before you walked out of the game by a marshal. Also, it was the top of your head that was sore. Now, unless you dived like a dolphin into that barrel head first, I don't see how that would be the part of your body that got injured if you actually slipped and hit something. Externally, though, my face tried to mirror the rest of the room. It was a mixture of compassion and surprise. Shout out to all of you that commented that I should practice the shocked Pikachu face. That was literally what I went for. He still doesn't know who did it. Everyone else believes his story. I'm not sure whether I should let it go or call him out. And then there's an edit. My boss sent out a late work email informing our team he'll be taking the rest of the week off to recover a little more. In response, my colleagues in our group chat have decided that we should pool some money together to buy him a get well soon gift and treat him to a work lunch next week when he's back. If there's anything interesting happening at lunch, I'll be sure to update.
Am I the a-hole for telling my mother-in-law she can't watch her child anymore until she respects me as a parent? So my family begged me to be able to watch my daughter 6 months instead of sending her to daycare. My mom has been an angel and watched her 2 to 3 times a week, and I fill in the rest with other family members. Well, my mother-in-law has been an issue from the start, telling people that I'm keeping the baby away from her just because I don't invite her to see the baby. I just would like her to take initiative to ask instead of me pushing my child on her, if that makes sense. That completely makes sense. I get that. Well, I agreed to letting her come for a day a week, but she decided she wanted to do half days instead. Whatever. So I get home from work one afternoon and my mother-in-law and her mother are in my living room playing with the baby. I love her mother, but I had no clue she was coming to my house. When I arrived, the baby is tired because of a missed nap so that grandma could visit. So I immediately take her and put her down for a nap and they left. So I decided to send a text that says, I would appreciate you asking me or letting me know before you invite someone to the house. Nana is always welcome. I just would like to know who's here. feel like that is super valid. Mother-in-law ignored me for days and didn't respond. Then my fiance goes to talk to her and she says she is mad at me for talking to her that way. So I call her and she begins to tell me I'm rude and that I should never have said anything to her for inviting her own mother over. She never apologized, told me I was a B, and also told me to keep my mouth shut when I'm talking to an elder. So apparently I'm not allowed to have any preference of how my home or childcare is handled. I have no issue with her mother visiting, that's not the problem. The problem is she doesn't respect me and doesn't think she needs to tell me these things in my own home. That is wild. So I told her until she can learn to communicate appropriately with me, I love that, and talk to me with respect as the parent of my child, she can't watch her anymore. Am I wrong for this?
Am I wrong for inviting my son's girlfriend on my wife's birthday trip even though my wife doesn't like her? My wife and I have 2 sons, 16-year-old male and Jack, 20 male. Jack has a girlfriend, 22 female, Emma, who would be unpleasant to be around sometimes. My sister is a teacher, and she was the teacher of Emma, and she said that Emma was a bully in high school. My wife said that she wasn't surprised at all. She thinks that she is condescending and always putting Jack down, alienating him from us, and always hanging around with her family instead. Emma especially doesn't like my wife and makes comments about her not acting her age. Last summer we were abroad and she had just met and started dating Jack when we brought her along. She made comments about my wife wearing skimpy bikinis and that she would be embarrassed to do that at her age with 2 sons. My wife laughed in her face and called her immature. Later that evening, Emma tearfully announced that she didn't know if she could get along with us as a family. And my wife laughed and called her speech pathetic and she didn't need to get along with us. Jack was angry. Since then, I have tried to talk to my wife about her attitude, but she just said that she knows a CUNT when she sees one. That Emma was one and she won't stop being one because she has seen 40-plus-year-old Emmas everywhere, so that meant they don't change. About Jack, she said she loved him and respected his choice. Now, I have booked a luxury stay for a weekend in Nice for my wife's 45th birthday for our family. Jack said Emma wanted to come too because Nice. Anyway, I wanted the whole family together, so I agreed. It's in May. I have told my wife and she was just shocked. She didn't say anything, but she doesn't speak to me. My sister said that I'm a big A because no matter who is in the wrong here, according to her, neither is wrong. My wife doesn't like Emma, and her birthday should be about her being with people she loves. But Jack would probably have been devastated and probably would have declined to come. My sister said that it was Jack's decision then if he didn't want to come. So, was I wrong?
Am I the asshole for streaming on OnlyFans, Kick, and Twitch while my son is being teased at school? I'm a single mom and have been using platforms like OnlyFans, Kick, and Twitch for income. This work has become a major financial support for us. I'm making way more than I've ever earned at any job, which is crucial for our living expenses and my son's education. However, it's led to an unexpected and troubling issue. My son, who's 14, recently opened up about being teased by his classmates because of my online activity. He shared a painful incident from last week where he was ridiculed during lunch, leaving him feeling humiliated and alone. As a single parent struggling financially, I saw it as a way to provide stability and a comfortable life for us. But now I'm deeply concerned about its impact on my son's social life and mental health. I should note that I do not stream nude. It's slightly risque, but I do not create not safe for work content. Despite this, I still earn around 8 times more than what I used to make at my last job. Girl, you making that much and you ain't even getting naked? I'm sorry. It seems that images of me have made it into my son's social circle. I'm torn between the need to maintain our financial security and the negative effects my career is having on my son. I strive to be a good mother and provider, but I'm questioning if I'm failing him in other ways. So am I the asshole for continuing to work despite the emotional costs it's having on my son? I mean, at this point, the damage is done. They already seen the images. I feel like they'll still continue to bully him whether she continues or not.
So it was around midnight when this happened, and I got a little hungry, so I went downstairs, and I kept seeing strange men in all black and white bags. This was a hallucination, and I'm starting to panic. Now, it's normal for me to hallucinate, but it scared me a lot this time. I kept seeing them for about 1 second, and then they would disappear. So I have my food, and I decide to go outside. So I look outside my window, and I see someone wearing all black with a white bag staring right at me. And I get creeped out and cry a lot and shake. The next morning, my mom said to me, "Oh yeah, the neighbor's car got robbed last night, and the robber stole a white bag and was dressed in all black." And then my friend that was behind me told me that her dad is a cop, and they were talking last night about how this kid in her brother and sister's grade wanted to shoot the school up. And I told her to tell the teacher, so she did. And then about 10 minutes go by and the teacher's looking at the windows and there's no cops out there, but everything is okay. And then I get scared. So I walk up to her and I sit in a chair by her, and my cousin is crying and people are trying to tell us that it's okay. Then it's about the end of the hour and the teacher says that everything is okay, and she turns the lights back on and we all get back to our seats, and then the bell rings and I call my mom because the school that I was in is in a different town than the other kids, and the high school is right by the middle school, and that this kid wanted to shoot up the high school. So I call my mom and I tell her to call the middle school to see if my little brother is okay because he's in that middle school. And I get to my next class, which is math, and we tell everyone about this, and no one except my class knew about this school shooting. My class was the only one on lockdown that day.
Am I wrong for leaving my sister in the hospital while she had a stillbirth because I had to do my MCAT? I know a lot of people know what it is, but if you don't, it's the medical college admission test. My sister Mia and I are usually close, but this is really causing some issues. I genuinely didn't think I did anything wrong, but I do want some insight, and by the way, this happened in April. Also, if you're curious, I'm 22 and she's 28. Mia had a high-risk pregnancy, placenta previa, and some other issues. She eventually had to get a C-section a week earlier than expected, but the baby was stillborn. I had my MCAT the day after Mia delivered, and she told me she wanted me to stay with her. We talked before they took her in, and she was a screaming, crying mess. That's awful. I ended up leaving since I had my exam early morning, and I came back to the hospital as soon as I finished. I did hear the awful news that the baby was stillborn before the exam, but I didn't go then. So a few days passed and Mia's super pissed. Am I wrong for leaving my sister in the hospital while she had a stillbirth because I had to do my MCAT? I ended up leaving because I had my exam early morning, and I came back to the hospital as soon as I finished. I did hear the awful news that the baby was stillborn before the exam, but I didn't go then. So a few days passed and Mia's super pissed at me. She's saying that I ditched her during the worst time of her life, and I told her I was really sorry. But I really had to do my MCAT. I know she's going through a very difficult time, but she completely went off on me, saying that I could have done it any other day. She told me that I thought some test was more important than her and her baby's life, and that I deserved to fail. Mia's still saying I'm selfish, and at the least, I could have gone to the exam directly from the hospital and stayed with her the rest of the time. A lot of extended family know now, and some are saying what I did was terrible. My mom agrees with me, but is saying to let Mia be because she's going through a trauma.
Turns out you guys were right, but we'll get into it. Firstly, I unblocked Mike this morning and called him to talk. After a few hours of arguing, I finally got the truth out of him. He said after I told him about my past, he was fine with it because it happened before him. Then he got curious about who Jake and Adam were. So he went digging on my Facebook friend list and didn't find Jake, but he found Adam. He then condemned me for having an ex on my social media page. I said I don't speak to the majority of the people on my Facebook, but I wouldn't delete them. I just won't engage. He said that in his eyes, that was a red flag, so he went digging. And he found what he was looking for. He saw that Adam was well known and well liked by a lot of women because of the women liking and commenting on his posts, and by the cars and trips he posted prior. He knew that Adam had to be well off. He also admitted to knowing some of the women who were in Adam's comments. He then tried digging into Adam's friend list, but it was hidden. So he asked Jessica to stalk his likes, comments, and posts for a Jake. Sure enough, they found Jake, saw that Jake drove an expensive car, and came to the conclusion that I only date men with money. No, Mike doesn't have money, so his entire analysis was dumb. Anyway, I asked him why he just didn't come to me, and he confessed that for a while he thought I was interested in Jake and Adam for money because that's what women do. He then said that him and Jessica brought the situation up to his guy friends, and they all agreed that this is how the situation went. I was dating Jake, he introduced me to Adam. I found out Adam had more money than Jake. I left Jake to sleep with Adam, then started dating him. I questioned why I would leave Adam if I was with him for money, and he said he thought that was a lie and Adam had to be the one to leave me. Ouch. He then said that he contemplated breaking up with me over this for months, but as he got to know me, he slowly realized I'm not that kind of person. I told him that he's basically full of shit for dirtying my name with his friends. Then I asked him why he didn't clear up my name. He said whenever he brought me up, they all dismissed me as a gold digger, thought a woman who slept with men for money, and here's the kicker, probably still have some of that money saved. They came to the conclusion that I must be with Mike for some ulterior motive, but he was too embarrassed to defend me. He also said that he was embarrassed every time I mentioned a male friend or tagged any guy on social media because they all teased him afterwards. I remember him asking me not to like any other man's photo on social media and to not tag any guys, but I just thought it's because it made him uncomfortable, not because his friends were silently stalking me. After hearing all of this, I decided to end things with Mike. I told him that he's not a nice person and I can't trust him anymore, especially because he knew I was saving for months to afford the PS5, and he even allowed his friends to think that I got my money somewhere else. After ending it, I said, "Oh, by the way, have you ever slept with Jessica?" He said no, but after she found Jake, she suggested that they hook up if he ever needs to get back at me in the future. I asked what she meant by getting back at me, and he said that she was certain I would cheat on him with a wealthier man if I found one. He then said that he gave me the truth after all these years, so I should forgive him and give him another chance. But I didn't. I just thanked him for the good times, the memories, and for dirtying my name. Then I hung up and blocked him again. Now I think I'll take another long break from the dating world. Thanks again, everyone.
Am I the asshole for making a scene after my sisters-in-law announced their pregnancies at my birthday as a gift? Disclaimer, this is not my story. I will list the source in the caption of this video. My 24 female boyfriend, 24 male, has two sisters, Emily, 30 female, and Diane, 32 female. They are both married and trying for a baby. Diane announced her first pregnancy at Mother's Day this year. She gifted her mother a baby shoe and a positive pregnancy test. Everyone was happy, and even more when Emily told everyone that she also was trying for a baby. Later that evening, I texted both of them saying, "Congratulations, I'm happy for you." It's a bit weird for me and my boyfriend because we recently learned that I'm sterile. I hope I didn't cut the mood, but I'm really excited for the both of you. They sent me some texts assuring me that everything was well. Sadly, Diane lost her baby 2 months after this party. Fast forward to last week. My mother-in-law, both sisters-in-law, and I met for a girls' night. My mother-in-law wanted to organize a party for my birthday, so she asked me if it was okay and what I wanted to do. I said fine, but birthdays are tough for me. When I grew up, my parents always made my birthdays about them. They never invited my friends or close family. They always invited their colleagues and friends. They had big parties where they drank a lot of alcohol, so after I wanted to be sure to have a small party with close family. Around 12 people, so nothing really big. The party was yesterday. I was helping my mother-in-law when both of my sisters-in-law and their husband arrived. They both also brought their in-laws and some friends. So what was supposed to be a small party ended up with more than 40 people. My mother-in-law was a bit irritated because we had to go buy more drinks and food for the uninvited guests. The party went well and it was gift time. I opened my gift from my mother-in-law, then father-in-law, then one from my boyfriend. It was sweet. Next were my sister-in-law's gift. They gifted me one small package for them both, which is fine. I asked for small gifts if they were willing to give one. I opened it and it was a small size shirt. I was more of an extra large than a small, saying best future on. There was also written with marker ×2. The package also contained 2 positive pregnancy tests and a photo of them touching their bellies. I looked them in the eyes asking, "Are you pregnant?" They both said yes. Emily took the shirt out of my hands and showed it to everyone. As I was starting to cry, I ran outside, my boyfriend following me. I had a panic attack. When I came back, everybody was happy. They were all congratulating the pregnant couples. I felt really sad. My boyfriend talked to his parents and we left the party without saying anything to anybody. In the evening, I received some nasty texts from some of my boyfriend's family saying things like, "Why did you ruin their announcement? It was only a birthday party. Please grow up." I do feel bad. My boyfriend was planning on telling them to fuck off. But I don't want him to ruin relationships with his family. My father-in-law and mother-in-law called me to apologize, saying things got out of hand. So was I the asshole for making a scene?
Am I wrong for saying it's easy to be the perfect mom when you don't have kids to someone who's infertile? Oh, that is brutal. But I feel like you have a reason for saying it, hopefully. I, 28 female, have a 2-year-old son. My brother, Tommy, 25 male, has been dating Gianna, 22 female, for a few months now. She's a little judgmental, not of me particularly, but in general. She babysits for other children and constantly judges the parents. She said she'd never let her kids act the way the kids do. Sometimes it'll make sense, and I agree. Others, she claims that her future kids will never, ever throw a tantrum. They'll accept no the first time and the only time. I've told her good luck with that when it comes to toddlers. My son is learning no and has appropriate consequences for tantrums, but he's learning. It'll happen. It's also important to note that Gia is infertile. She can't have kids without medical intervention or adoption. Saturday night, we went out for my dad's birthday dinner. I messed up and didn't prepare my toddler well enough. He got overstimulated and began melting down. I quickly took him out of the restaurant to calm him down before he could cause a scene. It took all of 5 minutes and we returned. He got food and all was good. Gianna started on, "My future kids will never act like that in a restaurant." I ignored her. The next day, myself, Tommy, our parents, my son, and Gianna went to the mall for an event they were having. My son was playing in a structure and I had my eyes on him. My mom asked me a question and I turned to answer her. When I turned back, he was gone. Panic set in and myself, my parents, and Tommy, along with some people nearby, began hand helping me look. It only took a few minutes to find him and he was perfectly fine. He had seen a pretzel cart and wandered off. I was still pretty worked up, holding on to him for dear life. He had never wandered off before. My mom was reassuring me, saying it happened to her with both of us kids. Then I hear Gianna, "Why weren't you watching him?" I tried ignoring her. Then she said, "I would have never let him wander off." I was already so worked up and upset, and I snapped. I said, "It's easy being a perfect parent when you don't have kids. Come back to me when you do." Gianna got visibly upset. She then made Tommy take her home. Tommy and Gianna have both texted me, telling me how insensitive that is since she can't have kids. To me, she's talking about having kids all the time, so why is this different for me to say that? So, am I the asshole?